Man, we've been talking for a long time, but I'm going to go ahead and start the podcast. David Alexander, sports performance coach, owner of DBC, has trained the likes of Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Timberland, P. Diddy. Yeah. The list goes on and on. I can talk about this man forever. And the reason why I'm here is for my own selfish benefit, but you guys are going to benefit a lot from it. I'd just like to pick his brain. He is one of the leading guys in the industry. And so today we're here at DBC. We're in the recovery / therapy room, right? Yep. And just looking at all the details, like I said, it was a testament to your success based upon like all the things that you not nitpick on, but are very detail orientated. Yeah. You're kind of like my video guy back here, switching the lights up every 20 times. But
which I respect that, by the way.
Yeah, no, 100%. All right, guys, huge announcement. Yes, it's finally here. Battle tested my post-workout recovery matrix. It is everything that I use put into one particular bottle. So check it out. Link is in the description. Now let's get on to the video. So first, man, I just want to thank you for bringing us.
Man, I appreciate you, man.
100%.
I've been wanting to chop it up with you for a while. So.
Absolutely. And we've worked with, he started with Timberland, and then now I'm working with him too as well. We work together. Let's talk about the start, because people know who you are, but I do want to get more of that root foundation of how it all started, because you're very successful. You own multiple businesses, and you're training the best athletes and people in the world. How'd you get started, man?
Yeah, I've done other interviews before and other podcasts, and I've told some of the stories, but I always try to save a little piece for something new. So let me give you a little different aspect to it. Like most coaches, I went to college, went to school, got my background in kinesiology, did a post-grad in athletic training, spent my 20s going through getting certifications and finding yourself and making mistakes, as most people do. But I truly give like my start to the MMA world. When I came out of college, I was working with a lot of college athletes, and I don't like to use the word low level, but like college guys and G League type players and stuff like that. And it was great because I knew I always wanted to be with athletes. But back in about 2002, I was doing jiu-jitsu for Ralph Gracie. That's and awesome. You're an MMA guy.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
You're the godfather of it. So I was doing jiu-jitsu for Ralph Gracie. And a lot of the guys then were up-and-coming fighters, guys like Jake Shields and Gilbert Melendez and Luke Stewart, and guys are fighting in Strikeforce and UFC shows. And my first MMA guy was Luke Stewart, who was a black belt, Ralph Gracie guy, and he was like, "Hey, I want to have you get me ready for a fight prep." And crazy thing, he was fighting at the Playboy Mansion. Yeah, it was gonna be the first fight back when they used to do fights there for Strikeforce. Yeah. So I was like, "Man, I'd love to." And so he actually was a tattoo artist at the time too. So I said, "I'll make you a deal. I'm not gonna charge you for the fight prep. Do my first sleeve, and
that's dope.
And I'll do your fight prep." Yeah. So it went well. He ended up like knocking the guy out in the first like 19 seconds. Yeah. And then from there, like anything, it's word of mouth. So after that, Jake Shields and him were good friends, and Jake was like, "Hey, let me meet your strength coach." And then I got on with Jake. Nice. And then Jake led the Gill, and so it was great. I was just submerged heavily into that MMA world, and I loved it. And, our stand-up coach was a guy named Tariq Kazim, who also now is a sport performance, strength conditioning coach out in San Francisco. Yeah, he has a gym, I think it's called Empower. So he used to work with like Marshawn Lynch and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Damn. So, I'd like to say I really got my start in the MMA world.
That's amazing.
Not so much the NBA and NFL.
I love that, man. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. And I think, it gave me a niche for when I did generate back into the NBA world and NFL world and PJ and all that was, and I think you knew this better than anyone because you're still doing it at a high level with MMA, is there's no one more respected on the planet than a fighter. Yeah. And so for me was spending all that time around the MMA world and then gravitating back into NBA, my niche was I want to give these guys the mindset of those guys. I want to give these guys the approach of those guys because you know this better than anyone. When an NBA guy gets on the court, he has 4 other brothers standing behind him to help him try to get a win, he or she get a win. And then they got guys on the bench to help him get a win. Yeah. When an MMA guy gets in and that door closes, there's nobody in there but him. Yeah. And that's a different type of mindset.
It definitely is.
That's a different type of mindset. So if I can get my NBA guys to tap into that side, when they get on the court to know, you got some brothers behind you, but I want you to have that mindset of a fighter and that approach. So I think that was kind of, my niche of, starting in the MMA world and then bringing that back into the NBA and NFL and all that.
So how were you able to like bring it to them exactly? Were you basically coaching them, giving them mental cues, things like that?
Yeah, I think, what I saw was when I came out of college and I was, when you come out of college, you do things exactly how you were taught in college.
Yeah.
And any ATC or
Sure.
kinesiology or phys graduate will tell you this stuff, is you're going to do exactly what the book taught you. So I was following all these protocols and doing things as you should, but I wasn't really willing to jump over and start to play with that gray area and start to dive into the other books and stuff.
Gotcha.
So when I dove into the MMA stuff and came back into that world, what I looked at was I wanted to play with that gray line. And what I realized is a lot of NBA and NFL guys weren't making themselves uncomfortable. And with MMA, right? If it's the fourth round and your guy, we'll say Dustin, has a guy on top of him raining bombs in the fourth period, he's been there a million times. He's going to be calm. He's going to get out of it. He's going to go win a fight. So my thing was to try to take them back into their training in their off season and have them remake themselves every session. So I always say, and I've done posts on this, is your job as a strength conditioning coach, ATC, DPT, whatever it is to make sure your athlete remakes himself every session. Nice. So every session that they come in and see you, there's got to be something in there where they go, how am I going to get through this? And I don't mean like the throw up aspect, even if it's a biomechanic, like if they can, conquer a new movement, they can perfect a new movement, they can understand all of a sudden how to sit back in their hips or how to move kinematically correct. That's going to be a win for them and they remake themselves. So it's not always just the side trying to throw up or push them, but they got to remake themselves every session.
You give them the confidence to do better each and every day, and that actually transfers over onto the mats, in the cage, so on and so forth. So like with me, and you're exactly right, is I put them in positions where they're going to be functionally better overall, because they need to have global awareness. They need to be able to be, you said, understand kinematics and understand where their body is positioned at, have proper proprioception. And when you go and do it in a specific standpoint, like I know what I need to do. I know where my body needs to be. And I do that now, being older and like really understanding it. I still train jiu-jitsu regularly, and I'm always in a good position because of the fact that I know my body and I know what positions are going to be optimal for producing force and absorbing force and so on and so forth. So that's awesome that you said that, because that's something that's missing in combat sports in general, is that people just think that, and still to this day, it's getting better, but just beating yourself up over and over and over again. And we do that. Like that's something that is intuitive. As a fighter, when you're going your skills training, like most of the time, especially if you're hard sparring or grappling for hard rolls, like you're gonna push yourself mentally, you're gonna push yourself physically. And now we're tapering it back and being a little bit more methodical and strategic with our approaches as a trainer.
That's it right there.
And so with these young guys, and you've hit on this very well. I've taken some of your courses, and I will be taking another course here soon, thanks to my guy. Can you talk a little bit about like young coaches and what they need to do first before they start going into the world that we're in now with these high-level athletes?
Yeah. One thing you said real quick, and I think people should really understand that, is that blend is, you said something that really like stuck to me right there, is the MMA world is used to beating themselves up day in and day out, right? And a normal day for an MMA fighter, and correct me if I'm wrong if it's changes, right? They get up, they'll have jujitsu for hour or two or whatever their days lined up. Then they'll have stand up, then they'll have their strength conditioning, and then maybe they'll have some mobility and correct up. It's a fucking long day, right? And the NBA world back then, and it's changing a lot, was a little different. They didn't push themselves as hard. They were more, so there's some guys out there that train hard, but for the most part, it was like, can I mesh these two things, right? Can you take guys that work really hard and make them smarter? We're like, hey, you don't have to work that hard. We just got to get you to move properly and also work hard. And then with the NBA guys or NFL guys, where it may be, hey, you move properly, but can we get you to work a little harder? So I think meshing those two worlds is super important for anyone. Going to the point as far as like young trainers, I think the best thing they can do, and unfortunately, we talk about this all the time, social media has changed the industry dramatically. And I think right now everyone's throwing everything at the wall to see what will stick. There was a point where I just went at everything that was wrong. And as I've gotten older, I'm just starting to fall back, and I'm just watching everything from the sidelines now. And I'm just kind of paying attention. So I think for young trainers, it's like, get around somebody who's done it. Like get around. If you want to get in the MMA world, then I'm going to go ask if I can intern for a guy like you for 2 years. I need to learn. I need to learn from people that are doing it at the highest level. And I think trainers now are like, hey, I'm just going to get in and become a millionaire when I'm 28 because I'm going to do this or that on social media or whatever. And it's not like that. You got to put your time in, and you got to get around people that have been doing it at a high level before you and doing it better than you.
No, that's 100% accurate, man. I think that a lot of guys, a lot of young kids now, they're still spoiled in a lot of ways. And what I mean by that is that with young trainers, they have access to information readily available on their phones, laptop, whatever. Even with myself, and I know definitely for you, you didn't have that opportunity. You didn't have that opportunity to brand. You didn't have that opportunity to market.
Yeah.
You had to do it all on your own. And I want to backtrack a little bit because I do want to get like the process that you had to take, because that's big, right? You got to understand the process.
Yeah.
And a lot of these coaches, they want that fast track.
Yeah.
Tell them the step-by-step process, not obviously too intricate, but you had to pay your dues.
Yeah.
Right?
I think, number one, you got to get educated first, right? You can't become a chef if you don't know how to cook, if you don't know recipes and ingredients and things like that. And that's what the human body is. So I think number one is people are skipping education. I think right now people are just looking at social media, watching a few videos, and then just taking that video and doing it and not knowing the why or understanding why they're doing it. So you got to pay your dues. You got to get educated first. You got to make mistakes because you're going to make a lot of fucking mistakes, right? We know that. Like, I made a lot of mistakes in my 20s and even in my 30s, and I'm sure you made a few. And then number three is you got to understand, like, nothing happens overnight. And something a trainer said to me a few years ago. Remember, I was interviewing a kid, and I asked, what do you want to do? How do you want to get there? And he goes, well, I want to be retired when I'm 30. And I remember listening to that, and I'm like, all right, if you can pull that off, let me know how that works out for you. But I saw the mindset, and I said, do you really think that's going to happen? And if so, tell me how. He said, well, I'm going to write a bunch of online stuff, and I'm going to do some books, and I'm going to do this, that, and the third. And I said, who's going to learn from a 27-year-old that hasn't spent any time with clients hands-on? Like, think about how many hours you have hands-on time. And I think that's where the industry and young trainers are going wrong, is they want to skip that step. They want to skip being in the trenches. They want to skip the 8 to 10 hour days. They just want to put content out and try to make money off of that, and they're not in the trenches. Like, think about how many hours a day you do. You know what I'm saying? And you're still doing it, and you're at the top, and you're still at a high level in the trenches. Like, I'm going to be 46 in a few weeks, and I still train 7 to 8 people a day.
I know, that's crazy.
Like, I'm still in the trenches, coming down and putting in hours. One, because I love it.
Yeah, you're a practitioner though, too, as well.
But I think if you skip the steps of being in the trenches, you're never going to have real success.
Well, we get a lot of those guys, when they come in with the degrees and everything else. And like you said, you need a baseline of knowledge first. You need an understanding of basic biomechanics, physiology, anatomy. And then they come in, and then they have to also learn about people, right? They have to learn about communication skills.
Yeah, that's huge right there. Yeah.
And then retaining the athlete or client that they have, being personable. You do a tremendous job. We were telling me about like how you create the culture in DBC and throughout all your trainers. Like, is that something that you see is vital for like growth overall?
Yeah, 100%. I teach a seminar called The Principles of the Trainer, and one of the first things I talk about is a book called The Energy Bus. And we're in the business of energy. We're in the business of people. And it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter what your resume is. If you don't know how to connect with people, and you don't know how to manage your own energy, and you don't know how to manage your client's energy, you'll never have success. So I know there's people out there way smarter than me, but they don't know how to manage the energy of people, themselves, or that session. They can't connect. And I think when you have that ability to connect with people, but then also bring education and bring talent and bring experience behind that, that's going to put you on a different level. And I think that's the other thing too is, not to make this a whole thing about social media, but like social media is getting people disconnected. We're forgetting even how to say hello. We're forgetting how to shake hands. We're forgetting how to make eye contact. We're forgetting, like, now people just communicate like this. They're not even talking anymore. And when you're in a session, you're talking for 55 minutes to an hour to 90 minutes, however long your session is. And if you don't have an ability to do that at a high level, your resume doesn't mean shit.
Yeah, they gotta want to be around you too. There's a big issue there. I know plenty of trainers that don't have the degrees, don't have the education, and really don't know a lot about training, but they keep clients for like 10 years and they may not get results like that.
Yeah.
But they just like to be around them,
Yeah.
you know, and that's not that obviously you want to be good and you want to be great at your job and get the results, but it just shows that that's a major role. That's a major key factor that you need to have, you know, so.
I always say, you know, you can judge a trainer off their attrition.
Yeah.
So watch how quick their clients are turning over or how long they're staying with them. Because like you said, like I know trainers out there that have had clients for 10, 15 years and gotten zero results. But maybe they've helped them mentally in their life in a way that physically it doesn't matter, because mentally maybe they brought a happiness, and maybe they made them a better husband, a better wife, a better father, so whatever it may be. So there's something to be said about that as well, I think. So, you know, I do think it's extremely important to have that background in physiology and anatomy and biomechanics, all that stuff. But if you can mentally help somebody now, when you talk about, I mean, it's a whole other topic, but you look at mental wellness and illness and this type of stuff, there's some coaches out there that are literally saving people's lives just off that interaction. Maybe they're getting fatter when they train with them.
Yeah.
But they're helping them mentally. There's something to be said about that, I think.
For sure.
I think that's a beautiful gift as a coach if you have it.
Yeah, no, it is. And you started in like the big box gyms, right?
Yeah.
This is probably how long ago now? I don't want to age you. Never mind. Don't say it.
No, you can age. I'm gonna be 46 in a couple weeks.
My man. See, sometimes I gotta ask,
It's
man.
all right, man.
So when you started though, like you learned a lot from those big box gyms, right? You learned the business side too, which is important for any coach right now.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it actually goes back to your other question of like, what do people got to do? And so when I came out of college, right, like I just wanted to train. And so I started training right away. But then I knew I wanted my own thing. I knew I wanted my own brand one day, and I knew I wanted to be my own boss. But I knew I had to put the time in. I was going to have to work for someone who's going to tell me what to do. And they were going to show me how to do it. But the business side is where I see a lot of gym owners and trainers skip. So I ended up applying for a position at a corporate facility as the athletic director, and I wasn't allowed to train. I had to literally run the training side of the business. So I was allowed to do like 5 hours a week, but my day consisted of meetings, P&L reports, going through like all the sales, understanding the marketing and the business. And I remember I was like, this is fucking miserable. Like I want to train. But I knew if I didn't know that, what I have was never going to be successful. So understanding how to read a P&L report, understanding the difference of operating from the red or the black, like this basic stuff, like business people know that, you know, in their sleep, trainers don't know them, business owners don't know that. So I think if you have the opportunity to get in a position to learn the business side of the industry, that's going to make you more successful as an owner. Like gyms don't make money. A lot of gyms don't make money. People don't get that. Everybody wants to own a gym. And I recently saw something on social media. It said the real win is what's signing your second lease. And that resonated with me. And I was like, wow, a lot of gyms don't sign a second lease, right? They come, they open up a 5-year deal, and then they close, they go bankrupt. Or they have a billionaire client backing them who needs the loss, and they're okay operating in the red. So I think when you understand what it takes to create revenue through your business, not just as a trainer, that's going to give you an advantage that a lot of trainers aren't putting the time in to learn.
So with that, what is the steps that you think, let's say for someone trying to open up a gym, they've done the steps that required. They have a good clientele list. Now, the next step is to get their own spot and to start to build their own brand in their own area. What are the things that you look at when you're trying to open up your own facility?
It was funny because I used to say, hey, you got to have a business plan. You got to have a business plan. You don't need to necessarily have a business plan, right? And what I mean by that is as long as you have an outline of how you're going to make money. And I think the biggest thing is, if I can give any young trainer advice, is understanding how you're going to create revenue streams, right? On any given day, there's only 8 good hours in the day to train. If you're doing it right at a high level, if you're really coaching like the way you coach, or the way I coach, or the way some of my coaches coach, you're doing it at a high level, that's a lot of energy you're putting out each day. So there's 8, maybe 10 hours if you're under 30. Once you get over 30, 10-hour days is exhausting.
It's tough now,
So you got to look at it and go, if you're relying just on personal training to create revenue, that's not going to cover your rent. That's not going to cover your electric bill, your cable, your insurance, the cleaning company, the towels, the water, all the stuff you got to order. So creating revenue streams is number 1. Number 2, also understanding how you're going to pay for that build out. Are you going to take a loan? Are you going to get an investor? Then what does his deal look like? And I think people just get too excited by this and they don't understand like there's a business component to it. So the first principle is, you know, I always tell people, if you can finance it yourself, finance it yourself. The only way you want to bring in an investor, my opinion on this, or you want to bring in outside money, is if that investor brings something to the table that you don't have. If they have more business sense, better marketing, something that they're going to add. Because if they're going to give you money and it's not a hard money loan, and we'll say it's, you know, you're going to give them equity, you're going to give them 10, 20%. Unless you want a silent investor, you want somebody that knows more than you about business so they can help scale.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like that.
And then, you know, again, number 3, man, understanding revenue streams. I say it all the time. Like, we have, you know, multiple revenue streams here at DBC, from our certifications to our trainers to our seminars to opening more facilities. And so, you know, when I created the brand, that was the biggest thing, was I knew I wanted 7 different revenue streams to this place. And I knew if I didn't do that, I was going to be in here till I'm 60, training a lot of people, and I don't want to do that.
No, for sure. And
I don't want to do
you
that.
won't have to do that by your
It's
by the
exhausting.
success that you've had.
It's
I don't
exhausting.
think and I think at this point you're doing it because you love to do it, and you've done it all because you love to do it. But there was a point where you needed to do it for money too, as well.
Yeah.
You know, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're at the same. Like, I'm definitely not at your level, right? I'll say that right now. You got years on me. You got more experience on me. I'm on that trajectory.
Hold on for a second, man. This is like, just, I hope young trainers out there see this, because this is what the industry missing, how humble this guy is. This guy, and I'm gonna give you your flowers right now, as they say.
My man.
This is the best MMA strength and conditioning coach out there. This is a business owner. This is a husband. This is a father. This is a guy that's done shit at a high level for a very long time. And how he's talking right now is what our industry is missing, is that the ability to truly be. A lot of people talk like they're humble.
Yeah.
You're really a humble dude, man.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, man.
That's why I was excited to sit here and chop it up with you, man.
No, I'm honored, bro.
And I mean that. I'm not saying because there's a camera here. I truly mean, like, you are one of the top at what you do. And the fact that you move, act the way you do is why you're going to continue to have a lot of success, bro.
And I hope so, yeah.
So
man.
I mean that. I'm going to give you, it's not over. We're just getting started.
Yeah, no, my man. I
it's
appreciate
important because a lot of people don't do that.
No, but I mean, props to you for what you've accomplished, though. Like, there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that, how much time, effort, energy, sleepless nights, you know, stress build up. And I have that, so I understand, but you've done it so long. And that's where, like, people have to understand, if you have access to an individual like this, you take advantage of it, and you obviously give value back. That's why, like, I'm willing, I'm gonna pay for the certifications. I am. I'm gonna pay, like, he didn't know I paid for one of the online ones, though, so there we go. But listen, so anyways, so now I still want to keep going. So, like, you've gotten to a point where you understand the business. Now, you left San Diego, right? We didn't really talk about that, but you're from San Diego.
No, I'm from San Francisco originally. I went to school in San Diego. Yeah, I grew up in Northern California, Marin County.
Gotcha. Okay.
Went to school in San Diego. Left San Diego in '99. Went back up to the Bay. I was living in San Francisco for a few years.
Gotcha.
I had a private client out here in Miami in 2002.
Yeah.
Fell in love with the city. Went back home, and I was like, you know what? In 18 months, I'm gonna move to Miami. So I packed up everything. Yeah. It was crazy. It was actually, I remember I sat with my mom. I go, I think I'm gonna move to Miami. And my mom was like, everything I knew, everything familiar to me was NorCal.
Yeah.
And I just said, I don't know, man. There's just something there. And I was scared shitless. And I say this to my trainers: everything we want is on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
Everything we want.
For sure.
And I remember I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
I sold everything I had. So I flew to Miami. I found an apartment. I applied for a job at the Sports Club LA, and I got it. And so I went back home. I told Mom, yo, I think I'm gonna go to Miami. 4 bags, shipped my car, and I remember I landed. And when I got, this is a true story, I got here, I got into the apartment, I called my mom, I'm like, man, I think I made a mistake.
Oh, man.
I started panicking. Yeah, I was like 27 years old. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know anyone, I knew nobody.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I go, I think I made a mistake. My mom goes, all right, make your deal. Just give it 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, I was literally panicking. I was gonna go back home. She's like, just give it 6 months. If it doesn't work out, you always go back. You know, you figure out, you get your old apartment back and you go back. And within like 60 days, man, I just fell in love with it, made some great contacts, and that changed my life. Had I not done that, this wouldn't be here. I would have probably just stayed in my comfort zone in NorCal, had a little studio and did that. But that leap of faith, that fear that I felt, it panned out.
What was like some of the major mentors of yours coming into this situation? You know, who was giving you the best advice in that point in time?
So when I was younger, there's a guy named Eric Northrup. He was my fitness manager at 24 Hour Fitness. And I've never even brought this guy's name up. I actually reconnected with him on social media. This guy, and he's still a trainer.
Yeah?
Older than me. He's probably, I think he's 51, 52.
Yeah.
He taught me so much great stuff when I think I was like 22, 23, of just how to sell, how to connect with people, and just understanding like we don't do this for money.
Yeah.
And I remember he said that to me one day. He's just like, bro, we don't do this for money. He said, we do this to really change people's lives, and money's gonna come.
Yeah.
And I remember I wrote that down. I tell people in the principles of the trainer, like I kept a journal my whole career of everything I wanted to do in the industry, things I wanted to change, things I saw. And I remember I wrote that down. I'm like, we don't do this for money. He was a big influence for me in my early 20s. When I moved to Miami, my business partner now, Donnie Raymond, is, Donnie's the GOAT, man. And I don't think that guy, he's the most, talk about the word humble, like, Donnie, I think, I'm gonna put your age out there, bro. I think he's turning 55 this year.
Yeah.
But Donnie, like, he changed my life when it came to biomechanics, because I thought I knew when I came out of school.
Yeah.
And I tell this story at the level 1. I thought I really knew what biomechanics was until I met that guy.
Yeah.
I knew everything there was about physiology and anatomy and strength conditioning and all the stuff they teach you in kinesiology. But when I met that guy, I remember I had a bulging C6, C7 from jiu-jitsu. I was 29 years old.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I have the same thing.
Okay, so we can
Same
fix it.
exact thing, bro.
We can fix it.
Oh, man.
So I had a bulging C6, C7. I was living here in Miami. I was at the sports club. I was, I think, 28, 29. And a couple of the trainers were like, oh, man, you got to go see this former Navy SEAL guy. He's a biomechanist and da-da-da. And I was like, biomechanics? Like, aren't those the guys that just look at, like, motion capturing? And like, no, this guy's different. So I went to him. He had his little studio. It was actually in an apartment that he turned into a gym. So I went in.
In Miami,
in Miami. I went in, and I'll never forget. He was just super chill guy. He's, hey, man, let me take a look at you. Assessed me really quick. I went and got an MRI, showed my MRI. He laid me on a table. He's like, hey, we're going to do a couple things. Did some, like, like reverse McKenzie's on my neck and other stuff. And he got the disc centralized, like, within, like, 24 hours.
Wow.
So did a full assessment on me. He's like, yeah, I think we can fix it really quick. In 48 hours, I was completely better.
Wow.
At that moment, I realized I didn't know anything about biomechanics. So I sat with him and I said, listen, like, I think I'm the best at what I do as far as sports performance and strength conditioning. I don't know what you know, and I want to learn this. So he's like, all right, let's just do this. Any of your clients that have injuries, bring them to me, I'll assess them, I'll write the program, and you can learn it.
Nice.
And so a bunch of us guys, like our trainer next door, Alan, myself, my buddy Tao, we were people that had real injuries.
Yeah.
We were going there and we learned it. And then him and I always stayed close.
Yeah.
In 2000, I think 14, I started writing the business plan for this. And he caught wind of it and hit me. He's like, hey, you opening a gym? I'm like, yeah. He's like, let's do something together. Like, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So I opened DBC, and he was actually a trainer. He was just going to be my head biomechanist. People don't know this story. So he was a trainer here.
Okay.
And then we started talking about certification, this, that, the third. And I was like, you know what, man? Like, no, like, I want you to be my partner.
Yeah.
And I said, let's do this. Like, let's figure this thing out. And so the next day we went 50-50, and
That's crazy.
he just was invaluable to me. So those two guys I think had the biggest influence on me was Eric and Donnie.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, he's, and him being a SEAL too, he obviously knows how to put together a team, right? And how to be a part of a team.
Yeah.
I definitely want to talk to him too as well at some point, and maybe get him on the podcast if he's down for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great thing when you can get those individuals that you look up to to be a part of something that you've created.
Yeah.
And then you guys can grow it together. Yeah. And then as far as from a business side, like because let's face it, you've done tremendous things from a business side of it. Who were some of those people?
Honestly, like coming up, so my mom she was an accountant.
Yeah.
So I was always like understanding money growing up. And the number one thing my mom embedded in me was, you can't have debt in your life. She's like, you cannot put a price on a good night of sleep. And I'll never forget this. So having that mindset was, I never wanted debt.
Yeah.
I just did, for me, we paid this, our investment off, we paid it off in 18 months. Like it just, you can't operate from a place
It was
of debt.
it was a bigger investment too. It wasn't like
Yeah,
some
no,
little,
it wasn't
little
small,
thing.
man. It was
Yeah.
it was north of 300,000.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't small. So it was, I didn't sleep for 18
And he was
months.
going. That means you're working.
Yeah. So
Nah.
that was number one. And then, honestly, I think two people that really shaped me with business, three people, and we'll just say over the last 10 years, was Maverick Carter was one. I started training Maverick back in 2011, I think.
For those that don't know, who is Maverick?
So Maverick Carter is LeBron James's business advisor.
Yep.
Manager, all that. I don't know what his title is.
Yeah,
He's his own person. I don't even like doing it. Like,
Yeah.
Mav's the best at what he does.
That's awesome.
But I was lucky enough to he's a very close friend of mine. He's jumped on the Principal of the Trainer seminar. During COVID, he did a webinar with me and
nice.
with schooling trainers on business. And, I was very lucky to have him as a client for several years. And, it was like going to Harvard to get my MBA. Like the stuff that guy taught me, guys like Steve Stout, guys like Timberland.
Yeah.
We're very lucky. A lot of trainers don't realize this is we train very smart and successful people. And I think when you build that trust and that relationship, to have access to that information is invaluable.
Yeah.
And I've had that my whole career.
Yeah.
Even at, back when I was in San Francisco, I had access to VCs and wealth advisors and things like that. So I'm always just talking and asking. If I don't know something, I want to learn it. Like the Donnie story. Like I didn't know biomechanics. I'm going to submerge myself with the best and learn it.
Exactly.
And I think that's, if you can understand we don't know everything, and the minute you think you know it all, you take a step back. So I don't care if you're the best house cleaner. I want to know what products you fucking use. Because I want my house to smell like that.
For sure.
That's just how I am. Is like, I want to get around people that are better than me at things.
Absolutely.
Even at my age now, is like, I'm still looking for people that are a lot better. And I just think that's how you continue to grow.
No, I agree 100%. That's why we do this podcast too as well. It's like I need to get in front of people that I want to learn from,
Yeah.
And so let's take it back, because I know a lot, and I coach a lot of coaches. So they give me these questions and I'm like, because for me it's kind of intuitive. Like I would just ask.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for someone who does have that type of client, how do you go about asking these certain questions that you want to learn from a business standpoint, from just like, I wouldn't say entrepreneurial, but also just anything? Because sometimes people are afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah. I remember when I was in school, like any degree, you got to take some subjects you don't really care about. But I had a great psychology teacher for one of my courses. And I remember there was a portion, there was a portion the gentleman was teaching. He says, people love to talk, and people love to talk about themselves. And he said, when you get into a job interview, if you can provoke and promote the person interviewing you to talk more than you talk, they're going to think it was a great interview. Right?
Yeah.
And I remember I used that tactic when I started interviewing for jobs. Was like, they would ask me a question, I would throw a question back at them, like, well, why'd you build this place? And then they would go on a tangent.
So true.
And before I know it, I didn't actually say shit in the interview. This person said everything and walked out, and I got a job.
Great guy. I love that guy.
They were like, man, that guy was great.
Yeah.
So I think, number one is your clients hire you to hopefully relax.
Yeah.
They're not here to talk about the shit they do all day. Like I know when I go through the door, the last thing I want to do is have to talk to somebody about biomechanics or sport. I'm like, bro, I just did this shit for 8 hours. I want to relax. But I think when you build that relationship in a session, like Timberland, for example, like how many great conversations do you guys have?
We had one this morning.
Right?
It's crazy, yeah.
He's a guy that he loves to educate and teach people.
Yeah.
And once you have that trust, it's more about, not going, hey, Tim, tell me how to write a business plan.
Yeah.
It's more like, how did you create Versus? And he's going to want to share that information because that's just who he is. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
So I think asking the right questions is more important than just asking questions.
Yeah.
So when you learn that skill, because that is a skill, I think, is to understand, like, your clients don't want to just sit and talk. They're paying you to hopefully get in better shape mentally and physically, but to learn how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, you said something in the webinar that resonated with me, where it was the fact that it was more so about how you communicate well with that individual, and that they want to tell you about their day. You want that individual to come in and have the best time here, right? It's the best part of their day, right? It's the best part of the day. Come in, train. And now I tell my trainers the same thing. I'm like, this has to be the best part of their day, And a lot of trainers don't understand that. And I think that they need to make that apparent when they walk in, when there are people that come to them to pay for their time, you have to give them that experience.
Yeah.
You know?
And the problem is, again, people don't want to put in the work. Trainers don't want to put in the work.
Yeah.
And understanding, if you're truly coaching at a high level, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the conversations, it's not just the cueing, it's not just the reps, it's not the program design. Putting all that together for 55 minutes and then doing that times 10 per day, times 5 per week, or 6, how many days you work, that's the difference between high-level coaches and mediocre coaches. Because anyone can sit and count reps, right? We know that. How many times you go in a gym and you see a trainer sitting, with their legs crossed, eating their food, just counting reps? Like that, to me, is just like, that's a whole other conversation. Crazy. But I think it's to understand what your volume is, right? Like I tell my coaches all the time, whatever energy you deliver at 6 a.m., if you choose to take a 6 p.m., you better be ready to deliver that same energy. If not, don't take that session. Because you got to know what you're, like I know my threshold. My time is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
That's a really good point.
After that, I'm worthless, right? I got to go get these golf balls. I got to go for a ride. I got shit I got to do. But I know my 9 a.m. and my 2 p.m. are going to get the same fucking energy from me. And that's really, really important, because I think I see coaches do this all the time, is they steal from their clients. They're on their phones looking. I was in a gym the other day. I say this all the time. I don't know if I said in the last seminar that you saw, was I'll have my earbuds in, but I never have music on. When I'm in a different gym, I just want to listen. I want to listen to how people are coaching and training, and I pay attention to that shit. And I remember I walked by this trainer, and he was literally just scrolling on IG while his client one was doing a horrible fucking squat.
Oh, man.
And just scrolling IG. And I remember looking at that, just going like, that's exactly why personal trainers, we don't have respect. Because the same guy over at that gym over there is got the same profession I have. He can call himself a PT or a strength conditioning or whatever your title is. He can say he does what I do. And that's me personally, what my mission is as far as changing the industry, changing the narrative a little bit for that.
Yeah, it goes as far as like a lot of my guys, they don't even like to be called personal trainers because of that.
100%.
And it was a long time where I was like, I even said it on one of my seminars, and I was like, I'm not a personal trainer. Like I'm a coach.
100%.
It was one of those things, and like, I do think I personally train people. But
it's a fucking horrible title.
It's a horrible title.
I don't call myself a personal trainer, but yes, we are. So here's the thing with it, right? Like the titles are so important, right? An accountant wants to be called an accountant. Like a lot, some people are gonna get mad at this one. A lot of DPTs, physical therapists. There's some great ones out there, just as there's some great trainers, and there's some fucking horrible ones out there, just as like there's some bad ones. A lot of them that call themselves doctors, it drives me nuts. Because some of them are not good PTs, and they'll classify themselves, I'm a doctor of physical therapy, just because that title sounds great, right? But I know strength and conditioning coaches that know more medically than that DPT, right? So I think people are getting so caught up in the titles, and I think what you said is it. We're coaches. We're coaches mentally, we're coaches physically, we're coaches emotionally, we're coaches. And your title doesn't mean shit. You want to be an ATC, that's great. Be an ATC because the education and the approach is what prompted you to take that degree. Don't do it just for the title. I don't care about a title. Me personally.
No, I stopped worrying about it. Physical preparation coach or strength conditioning, and like I was like, all right, I'm done at this point.
It's funny. Sometimes I'll just be going down the rabbit hole on social media, and you look at some personal trainers pages and you read their bios. And it's just like, unfortunately, people love to do things to validate their own opinion, not to actually motivate, educate, or inspire. Right? If you ever look at like how many people are using social media and their stories as like an emotional journal, it's like, man, just call that person you got a problem with. Like whoever you're venting about, just call them. Like don't put it on social media. Like don't go down the rabbit hole with that. And I think that's the problem, is like social media have given access to, and we'll stay in the training industry, for people to literally use their stuff as an emotional journal. Hire a therapist. Go, if you really got all these things going, no, I'm totally serious too. Like hire a professional. Like if you got these things going on with you, go see a psychologist. Stop using your stories as emotional journals. Like,
they just want it. At that point, it's just about attention.
100%.
You want attention. But I understand that. Like, if you see somebody doing something wrong, why call them out on it? Because you want to have an argument.
Yeah.
You want to show that person that you're paying attention to them.
Yep.
So those are where you have those. I mean, they're trolls, right? That's what we came up with, a troll.
Do you get a lot of them?
I really don't. I mean,
Because you'll smack somebody in the face.
yeah, I really don't. I'll get like occasionally, like when things go viral and like it's a Dustin Poirier video or something like that, and the guys really don't know anything about what we're doing, especially if you're doing some mobility drill or something like that, getting close to a fight. And he's like, why is he laying on the ground? I'm like,
here we go.
Yeah. So that's it. But other than that, I've been able to really. But in the beginning, it was tough. Even in the gyms that I worked in, even coaches in the gyms, the skills coaches in the gyms, they were like, "What is that? Why is he doing that?"
Yeah.
And that's a big issue with a lot of trainers too, is that they don't want to put their stuff out there like that because they don't want to get. I know a lot of smart individuals, very good coaches. They don't put their stuff out there because they don't want that backlash, because they know that people won't understand. Mm-hmm. But what I tell them is the people that do understand, you're actually going to give them high value.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a gift and a curse in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
But there was things like with you, I know that you put out a lot of stuff that is obviously functional and is for the athlete. And it's subjective. And people have to understand it's subjective per context of what 100%. They need. And a lot of people just don't get it. They're just like, all right, why don't you just squat? It's not that simple, bro.
It's not that simple, man. And a thing I've learned as I've gotten older was a lot of people, especially the troll, so to speak, is, it's always the guy with like 300 followers. Not that there's anything wrong with that, 400 followers that wants to like try to rip apart something you do. But it's not even about that. They're hoping you'll get into an argument with them. So you use their platform to shine light on. I've stopped it. I've just moved away from it. And when you got to realize is, as long as everything you do is qualified, reference, and source, and you can show how you got to it from a medical book or the orthopedic books, whatever it may be, as long as you can show how you got there, that's all that matters, right? I think being creative, backed by science, is the best thing a coach can do. And I think it's great. People that are coming up with new philosophies or new approaches, as long as you can say, hey, by the way, I found this in this orthopedic textbook, or I found this in this medical journal, and it says the knee does this or whatever, then you're on to something. But I think if you get too caught up in worrying about, especially someone like you, right? You're at a very high level. Like I don't read comments. I stay out of it, and I just realize I just go, at the end of the day, it's just, check the trainer's resume. Check the success of their clients. How are their clients doing? Are they healthy? Are they not healthy? Are they playing at a high level?
That's a major thing.
Pay attention to the clients, not so much the content of the trainer.
Yeah, that's another thing you talked about on the webinar, was like the health of the athlete. That's how you can dictate how well the coach is actually doing their job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously had that, and there's been, let's talk a little bit about like the success that you've attained, and I guess how you've been able to develop. There's another question I get: how'd you get to train, so on and so forth? And a lot of it is kind of just based off of you being good at what you do, and then referrals and everything else just kind of steamrolls. But can you go into detail on how it all started?
I think the best marketing is word of mouth. Yeah. Right. And the more you do, you and I were talking about this, I think, before we were filming, was you got to put content out. I'm a huge fan of content, but there's a right way to do it, and I believe there's a wrong way to do it, just like anything else. So you got to have content. And I always tell people, the stuff you see me doing on social media is I try to tell a story of my athletes. I try to show what it looks like when they first show up, to the middle of their off season, till the time they leave, till they're in season. So if my client does a great dunk in the middle of a game, I didn't do that. I'm a big fan of my clients. Yeah. So if I repost that, it's because I'm excited that they had a great moment in that.
Exactly.
But I'm not like, hey, I did that dunk. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm trying to just show the story show their story. Yeah. I lost my train of thought there, because that was just, it's a big topic that I see trainers do something wrong in the sense of with their content, mishandling it, and understanding, like, if one of your fighters wins a fight, you had a big hand in that, right? You handled this fight prep, and I think you telling that story on content is important. You're not taking credit for that fight, right? There's a boxing coach, there's a Muay Thai coach, there's a jiu-jitsu coach, there's a nutritionist. You guys collectively as a team help achieve that success. And I think too many trainers right now want it to be just about them. right? Like there's a lot that goes into a Donovan or a Chris or a Dwayne. I mean, there's, our soft tissue guy, our biomechanics, our strength conditioning, our, our DPTs, all that. There's a lot. It's not just me. So I think being able to tell those stories is really important.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I ran into some issues with that too as well. Just want to put my guys, I want to basically show my gratitude to helping them in a small portion of a way. And then obviously it's a team effort. So we put the coaches that were involved in the camp, and everybody gets it. But obviously it's the one that stepped in the cage when the time comes to actually fully get it done. And for me, with training fighters, it's a little different. I've fought professionally. I've had teammates that fought professionally. With somebody that you have full control, like as far as like from a physical prep standpoint, and you bring them to that position, and you've had close conversations with them, like intimate conversations of like what their thoughts are and things of that nature, and coming up with a mental game plan to overcome adversity. I go to fights and I can't really go to fights anymore. I think my last fight was when Dustin fought Connor for the last time. When he broke his ankle, and I was like, I'm done. I can't do this no more. Like it's hard for me, and I only will go unless they actually ask me to go now. Because the nerves,
dude, I remember that.
Crazy, and I've never been like that, even when I was fighting myself, because I can't control what's going on.
And that's what I think that's such a great point. And some trainers won't get this part is, I personally, like you just said, I become so emotionally involved on a level with my clients. Their success matters to me, right? Like it's not like you come to Miami for 3 months and train and leave, you don't hear from me. If you ask any athlete that's ever trained with me, I'm checking in on you all season. Not for any other reason, but then I genuinely care about your health and success. Exactly. And I think if more trainers did it for that reason and not just to be tied to the athlete, you would see the success rate of that athlete go up. Because, when they leave our care, it's everything you taught them, it matters, right? You got to still check in. Are you getting enough sleep? Hey, buddy, I know you got 4 flights in the next week. Are you getting a gallon of water each day? How's your food? Keep away from the alcohol. Like, I just think, if you're really a good coach, you will emotionally become so invested that you can't help but almost like let it take over. So that stuff's important.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want to get one more thing down because I know you got to go, but X's and O's, just a basic layout. And again, if you want to learn more, do the level 1 certification. It's the basic layout. Let's say an NBA guy or anybody comes in to your facility. What's the first process they have to go through?
So all of them go through the assessment. So you come through our doors, you go straight into it. It's a 54 orthopedic measurements. Back in the room, we measure all the joints, muscle length, tension, all that stuff. We collect accurate data. Once we have the information, we then put together the plan, starting with the corrective exercises. Phase 1, phase 2 is phase 3, right? Phase 1 being we have to correctively align the musculoskeletal system. Once everything's moving and functioning the way it should, then we get into phase 2, which is more the strength and now starting to build some hypertrophy if need be, but the strength and development phase. And then phase 3, performance and conditioning.
Love it.
So I think, I think one of the biggest obstacles is a lot of trainers, but athletes especially, they want to do the fun stuff, right? They want to do the explosive, the dynamic stuff. But if you try to drive a Ferrari at 240 miles an hour with bald wheels and bad alignment,
it's not
probably going to go off the road.
No, absolutely.
So I think understanding that corrective alignment phase is so, even though it's the most boring, tedious stuff, that's the most important stuff, and it gives you the foundation to do the strength, the development, and the performance stuff.
I mean, it helps with overall buy-in.
Yeah.
If a person knows what's going on, and not even if they know what's going on, it's something that you're giving them that they don't usually get in LA Fitness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't get it in a lot of places. I mean, like a fighter comes to you or a client comes to you, like you put them through a very extensive evaluation.
It's a week-long evaluation.
Yeah. What do you do?
I mean, well, we'll do something like similar to what you do, and then we'll run them through, because we have to learn physiology. So we have to really look at like their limitations from an energy system standpoint, especially if they're starting a camp. So I'll even run, like we'll use one of my physical therapists. He'll do all the biomechanics, movement prep, stuff like that, especially them guys, because they're beat up. So they'll go through that, and then I'll get a basic outline of what's going on, compensation strategies, things like that. Then from there, we'll get them in the lab. We'll get a basic VO2 max test, lactate threshold, all of that. But then we do things like
you dive in. Sorry, you do a lot of the energy system stuff, right?
I have to. Right. It's like it's a major component to actually getting to where they need to be. But I also just will watch them walk. I'll take it that simple, and then I'll watch them shadow.
Take a note of that. Not enough trainers are just doing a gait evaluation. Yeah, exactly. You know how much information you can collect from somebody walking?
Absolutely. Yeah. And they'll just walk, like, what's going on? I'll tell, get out your shoes, socks off, and just walk. And then I can find out a lot of things through that. And then from there, it's like watching them shadow, because we'll go from general to specific. Watch them shadow. Then I'll go watch them grapple and spar and all of that, Watch throughout the entire week. We'll run a Moxie assessment, which is a NIRS device. And then I'll get to read blood flow trends off of that. And what I'm seeing is like, all right, are they utilization limited, delivery limited by their, whatever, and then respiratory limited. So that's a biomechanics issue in itself. Then from there, I can streamline the energy system training based on the limitations, so there's no wasted time. There's a lot of things that we need to get done in a very condensed amount of time with fighters. 8, 10, 12-week camps, maybe sometimes 4. Then I'm like, I really can't do much. I just got to make sure you're maintaining what you have and not getting you injured. And then we work on movement strategies. So it comes down to that. What's the lowest hanging fruit? Let's get that out the way. Let's start plugging in gaps. Make sure there's no weak links in the chain. And then from there, it's game plan. What's your game plan? What's the goal? How are you going to attack the situation from a fight standpoint? Look at backgrounds, there's so many different things because it's an individualized sport and you're coming with so many different types of people, right? And then when you've got big groups, and I had to do this at the other gym that I was at, you got like 8 to 12 man groups and, you got ranging from like a Junior Dos Santos to a Tisha Torres. They're so different. But as long as you have a set system in place and you actually know subjectively what they need to work on, I can base the exercise selection, the modality, whatever we need to do, as long as, we're cohesive in our unit and we have good coaches around it that can watch keep an eye on them. That's where where you change the game,
Let me ask you a question, totally different, just because, I'm also a fan of you.
I appreciate it.
And it's not often I get to talk to other big fitness industry leaders. What are 2 things about the industry, one you love, one you hate?
Honestly, now I would say the thing about the industry with like-minded individuals like ourselves is that being able to connect and being able to, not cross-promote, but, help each other out in a lot of ways. On top of the fact that I get to pick your brain, you get to pick my brain. There's things that that I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm always about that. And that's how you level up the entire system. Right? It's helping people, help each other. It's just like a team, man. And you're doing it in the efforts of helping people. So like if I can come to a professional like yourself, like what are you doing? Because you're doing it the right way. And that's what I like. The other thing I don't like really is about the negative side of that same aspect. Is going after people. And then trying to I don't like to say like trying to remake the wheel or whatever the case, because I like innovation. I do like that. I do like people that are trying to move the needle in certain positions and make sure that they're leveling up the industry in that particular way, but doing it in the efforts of just trying to be different as opposed to trying to get better. Does that make so?
That's it, right? I mean, I agree with that, man. That's beautifully said. One other question for you. Because I don't ever get to do this.
I like this.
I get to ask
you need to have a podcast.
No,
you really do.
No, I'll tell you why. You said 2 things. One, like I used to go after people, but I never went after people to try to decredit them. I went after them to ask the why. Like there's a lot of people, and it looked like I would shit on people, but it was, and by the way, I just stopped doing it as a whole because I just don't have the energy anymore. Because it's like you make one comment and 6,000 comments come through, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. If you throw it at the wall and it sticks and people want to believe it, go ahead. But I used to go after people, but it was always to understand the why of what they're doing. And you realize the more defensive somebody would get, there's probably not a lot of science behind that. Right? Who do you think, or what system do you think is something that's up and coming? Because I believe what you just said too is the more collaboration, the better the industry gets. Like I'm constantly trying to reach out to other coaches and trainers and build. So is there anything out there that you love right now that you see up and coming?
Up and coming.
And if not, just say, well, we don't know. We'll keep an eye out and save it for
No,
another
I mean,
conversation.
the difference in the energy system training now has shifted. Like, you know, there's a young kid named Evan Pycon that I learn a lot from. And he's super smart, super intelligent. Worked a lot with like CrossFit Games athletes, but he's multiverse. Like he's done triathlons, he's done different things, and he's shifted the way we thought about energy system training in a sense of looking at blood flow trends and doing it that way, as opposed to just being like, all right, that's anaerobic alactic work, or that's lactic work. And if you look at it from a physiological standpoint, you're always going to have some level of lactate accumulation. You're always going to have some level, you're always going to be aerobic, right? Because if you weren't aerobic, if you didn't utilize oxygen, well, you'd be dead.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so when it's funny because the technology that they had back then when they were trying to measure it out was too slow. Now they reevaluated it, and it's like, well, we have to measure it on a millisecond time scale now. So it's equivalent, and he always has this analogy. It's equivalent to like if they did the testing, and let's say for instance, me and you were talking, and there's one other person here. We're drinking a coffee, and it's filled up to the brim. That person leaves, goes, takes a call. We're sitting talking for 30 minutes and we're drinking our coffee, and then we just pour more coffee in, and now it's filled up to the brim. When they come back, it's still full. But they missed so they think that we didn't drink any coffee, right? So there's that disconnect. And so now it's more of a like, all right, are we utilizing oxygen appropriately? Are we delivering that oxygen to the working tissue? And how well are we being able to disperse CO2 and bring in oxygen? And that's the way we actually try to run our system when it comes down to energy system training. So that's one thing, you know, and then I just love movement strategies in general. That's why like for you, this is perfect, you know. I've done a lot of like FRC stuff, you know. I think that for me, understanding like in range control in certain positions, especially for jiu-jitsu, and being able to have active in range control. Obviously, passive range of motion is important, but also being strong in those end ranges is something that, you know, allows us to be successful in certain ways as far as like, especially with on the mats. And I'm taking it from my perspective because this is what I do. But, you know, I've noticed that you got a lot of guys that are flexible, but if they get stacked, they can put their legs over their head, but then they're getting passed because they don't have position control. So it's really being able to control.
That's jiu-jitsu talk right there.
Yeah. They know what's up. Hopefully, if they listen to me, they better know what's up. But yeah, that's about it. What do you think from your perspective? What do you think is something that you're really trying to look into?
You know, I'm getting big. Like I love the technology side of the industry. There's a lot of good wearable tech coming out now. So for me, it's like the more data I can collect on my athletes, the better. For a while, like for example, like Oura Ring, I don't get paid to say this. I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I love the Oura Ring. I'm big on the tech side of stuff right now. I love the ability it delivers, the information it delivers me about my sleep, my oxygen, my breaths, my heart rate variability, all that stuff. That stuff I think plays such a crucial role for athletes and just general population. Like I'm huge on the mental side of things now. What I'm starting to realize is that when you look at a normal, like I'm primarily NBA and NFL. When you look at the schedule of an NBA player, and people don't really realize how rigorous it is and how much these guys put their body and their mind and body through just to perform for us, for a fan. 82 games that they're gone from their families for 42 of them. They're on how many different flights, how many different cities in 1 week. And then you get a guy averaging 30 minutes, by the way, 3-4 times a week. The tech that can help us to give us the information of like, all right, the foods they put in their body, how it affects their heart rate variability or their oxygen at night or their REM sleep. I think that stuff, that's the stuff I'm starting to look into is the wearable tech stuff. But really the sleep, the nutrition stuff, like I'm starting to look at more coaches. I'm starting to follow more coaches like that. Like I think he does a great job. The Huberman guy, Huberman Lab. I'm gonna have him on the podcast soon. Yeah, he's phenomenal, man. You know, a lot of the stuff he puts out, I mean, I don't save a lot of I save a lot of his stuff and go back and watch it and listen to it. I think he's a really bright guy.
There's one other guy. I mean, if you're looking for like metabolic function, hormonal balance, things like that, Sam Miller is another one.
Okay.
I've done his. I'm in the process of doing his whole course now, and he's coming on the podcast too as well. When you look at like deep inside physiology and biofeedback, that's the guy that you really want to look at. He takes a lot from Huberman too as well, and Huberman takes a lot from him. So it's cool.
He's solid, man.
For sure. And I got a connection for you after this for tech. Just remind me.
Yeah, I love the tech stuff. It's all, you know, I'm very lucky because I have access to a lot of great engineers.
Yeah.
So, you know, I get 100 emails a month about people, hey, look at this, try this, do this. Yeah. So we'll send it through that.
Did you ever try the Omega Wave?
I didn't.
So we use the Omega Wave as opposed to the...
By the way, these aren't plugs. We're not getting paid for
it. Yeah, definitely not. If you want to, though, I guess, you know. Omega Wave, worked a lot with GymAware, too, as well, from just understanding more of, like, fatigue management. Mm-hmm. So we use velocity-based trainers like GymAware or Flex, something like that. That's simple. The only thing with that is, like, with the guys, they like to, like, kill the bar and then, you know, then technique goes out the window. But yeah, the Oura Ring works. I know the UFC PI uses that now. Yeah. More than anything, they transition to the Oura Ring.
For me personally, the great thing about it is I can get my athletes to like screenshot it and send it to me.
Yeah.
And then it allows me, you know, you can track 1 week, right? And you can look at what their HRV and their respiratory and these things are. And then if you see a spike of something, I can say, okay, what did you eat? Did you drink? Did you do this, do that? I think as a coach, that's your job to dive into the lifestyle of your athlete. I think that's really, really important, and it gets neglected because they're like, well, it's not a billable hour. Well, if you're doing your job and you're lucky enough to work with a high-level person, that's the stuff you should be paying attention to.
For sure.
The lifestyle is so, so important.
Do you recommend them getting that first when they train with you? Yeah.
I always ask them, hey, like listen, it doesn't have, if you want to wear a Whoop, wear a Whoop. You want to wear an Oura Ring, but you
need HRV and you want like direct current.
I love the Oura Ring. I tell all my athletes to get it, wear it, and screenshot it to me in the morning.
Nice, love it. Man.
It just gives you the more data you can have, as long as it's good data.
Of course. Yeah.
It's just gonna allow you to be a better coach, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got some people I want to hook up with because you ever talk to Andy Galpin?
Who?
Dr. Andy Galpin.
No.
I'll get you with him too as well. You guys know Dr. Andy Galpin. He's big. He's been on Rogan and stuff like that. So he's he's too famous for us now.
Oh, he's been okay.
Nah, but he's another one that definitely look into. He's a muscle physiologist.
Okay.
But he uses all that tech and him and then one other one. And I'm big into breath now. So breath work is, you know what I mean?
Huge.
So Brian McKenzie obviously is one of the major guys. Yeah. Yep. I can get you contact with him. He's tremendous.
You like Wim Hof?
Yeah, so I actually do Wim Hof breathing techniques in the morning.
I do it in my cold tub when I'm freaking freezing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, you have to.
Let me tell you, if you guys don't have a cold tub, and even if it's economically not in your budget, go get some ice bags and put it in your tub. Yep. That has changed, at least me as being an older guy now, that has changed me in so many ways for the positive.
Yeah.
I do it in 2 ways. In the morning, I just get in it for 90 seconds. Just to wake me up and get my day going.
That's a tough one.
And then I use it for muscle recovery and more the physiological side at night.
You're getting hormonal benefits from it too.
Huge. Listen, like huge. So I get my blood work done every 6 months. I get a full hormone panel. I go through everything. And since I got a cold plunge and started it, I noticed a huge boost in my testosterone, cortisol calming down, adrenal system calming down, all these things. It's been huge for me. Have you done any contrast with that? Like as far as like infrared light, sauna, stuff like absolutely. That? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of all that. If you're a professional athlete, then you do have access to the funds. So, you should have a cold plunge. Yeah. You should have infrared sauna. You should be doing Epsom salt. You should have all of that. Like if you financially or in a place that you can afford that.
That's where it's at.
All of that.
That's what's going into the new spot now. So we have a full infrared sauna.
Amazing.
We have the cold plunge, fits 2 people, and then we have the Normatec boots, everything else going in there.
The studies are there. Listen, I always just say, as long as the studies are there and can support what you're doing.
Yes.
But huge benefits for that stuff. Huge.
Definitely. So now that I know you like tech, I got a lot of things I want to show you.
Yeah, I love it. I'm like turning into a nerd.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it.
Like I'll run. I got like my Apple Watch. I'm looking at everything now. It's like, it's important.
And we use that a lot, especially with the conditioning training too as well. Obviously, we use, heart rate monitors and stuff like that. I was doing a triathlon. I was training for it.
Yeah.
And I understood, I was like really deep now into tech as far as understanding like energy systems and also like making sure that I was at a particular range. And
I'm going to hook you up. So we have a triathlete endurance coach here, Javier Pineda. He did the Ironman like 10 times. He's run like 3,000 marathons. He's a psycho.
Yeah, they're crazy.
But I learned a lot from him with the energy systems and the tech and stuff. Super smart guy. You guys will geek out together. You'll love it. Yeah.
Dope.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I won't take any more of your time.
I'm good, man.
All right, my
All
man.
good.
All right, so anything you want to plug? Certifications, everything else.
Yeah, no, I like.
Do it, man.
I'll be honest,
I'll do
man.
it for you.
No, listen. If you follow me, we have a DBC Level 1, Level 2, Level 3 certification that dropped. Principal of the Trainer Business Seminar. We have our new Northern California location, San Diego. Here in Miami is our flagship. We got a lot of things in the pipeline that are coming. It's going to be very exciting to be part of this brand and to watch where we're going.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Check him out. Instagram too.
David Alexander.
David Alexander. Go check him out. Thanks again, my brother.
I appreciate you, man. I've been looking forward to doing this.
Man.
Yeah.
See you again next time.
All right, guys.
Battle Tested, my post-workout recovery training supplement is now available. Link is in the description. Again, this is all the formulations that I put together in one bottle to make you recover so that you can train harder and progress going further. All right, check it out. Link is down below.